So we'll call the November Fargo Park District Board meeting to order for the year 2020. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, approval. Do we have a motion for the approval of the October bills?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Do we pull the board?
Dogs would like to discuss.
Yep. Do.
All right, Jeff, pull the.
All right, Commissioner Deutsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan,
She have the same issues as Thad, maybe? Is that kind of what you mentioned last time, Carolyn, or?
No,
Carol?
she's on. She has to unmute.
Oh,
Aye.
there we go.
Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Griggs,
Aye, motion carries. Approval for order of agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Madam President.
Okay. Do we have a formal motion on that as well? This is so, it's just so discombobulated being like this. Okay, do we have a motion?
Move to approve the order agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor, or pull the board,
Yep.
or all in favor?
No, all in favor.
All in favor.
Aye.
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 Okay, director's report.
Thank you, Madam President. The only thing I have to report today is, we continue to work with Epic companies on the design of Eola Park, and they're going to be sending out a conceptual site plan. We should have that tomorrow with some 3D rendering, so I'll get that out to you. As again, this is just conceptual. We're also working with their attorney team and our attorney team on our developers agreement, and possibly we'll be getting together next week and trying to hammer things out. We're going to model it after Broadway Square's management agreement a little bit, although out here we would own the park, and so we'll hopefully be getting a draft put together sometime next week. Another update on the right-of-way and the Anderson-Tharaldson kind of conceptual site plan. We're going to have another meeting with Post 2 on Monday that Kevin set up, and they'll let us know if they'd like to collaborate in that complex. And if Post 2 ends up being a player in the complex, we'd probably set that up to a 5-diamond Legion complex. And, some of our thoughts are, could we possibly turf all 5 of those baseball fields, fully artificial turf, and be one of the premier complexes in the upper Midwest? If they chose to, they want to go off on their own and have a site for their 2 fields, then our option or our plan B would probably be to, if we go with the right-of-way, relocate Teamsters Field over to the softball complex. We retain our 4 fields, and then maybe develop the other 3 fields into, I call it a tweener complex, which is that 13-year-old age group with 54-80 baselines. So that's kind of the plans we're looking out there, and hopefully within the next week or 2, some of these conceptual plans come together and we can start concentrating on the details. So hopefully the next week or 2 we'll know more. That's really all I have to report at this time. If any commissioners have any questions or concerns, then we'd be more than happy to answer them.
I got a question, Dave. So if Post 2 says, I don't think we want to locate out there, does that, so what happens then? Are they going to look to us to provide them land somewhere else?
Well, I think they would have to make that request in just discussions at the staff level. I don't know if we would be that willing to provide them land down at the sports complex. I think that's just tying up, 10 to 12 acres into a Legion program that wouldn't be available for the public. It's not to say we couldn't possibly find land elsewhere, whether it's at the Rutten property down on 88th Street or up at the North Complex, if they'd be willing to do that. So I'm, never say never, but I think we're really pushing for them to, be a part of this complex.
Yeah, and I guess the point is that we hold the cards. I mean, if they don't want to be out there at our, and we're very interested in having them out there, for them to try and go somewhere else, that if they're going to come back at us, I guess we control that issue.
You are correct.
Well, I would think that they would want to be out there, because what's the next best option, especially if they grow like 400 has grown and, have 2-3 teams, 4 teams each. If they only have one diamond, that doesn't do them much good if they ever want to have more than one team playing at once. So I would expect that they'll come along. I'm sure there's a lot of heartache with, the field up there, and especially with Northsiders, but I think this is a good opportunity for everybody.
Well, and I also think that we can, talk. I know they've had both groups have had conversations with the Maris family. Is that something that we can hold? Like Jerry said, we hold those cards, and this could be a huge complex. The CVB has gotten wind of it. Not to the level of detail that Dave's talking about, but understands what we've got ahead of us, and they like the concept. Could we work with the Maris family, on helping bring up this complex? I think it could be a win-win-win all the way around.
Yeah, I talked to Roger last week, so he's aware of it. I did send him our drawings too, so he's got that.
Very cool.
So when you say it, it sounds like you're talking about, you talked to Roger himself.
I didn't, you broke up, Vicki. I didn't quite catch all you said.
I just, when you talked about the Maris family, and then you said, yeah, I spoke to Roger, and just sounds funny.
Roger Jr.
There you go. No, I think it's a good site location, and I think with the backdrop of some potential 6 or 7-story buildings, they're not necessarily going out and creating a baseball field on a stubble field or with no trees or anything around it. I think this gives them some depth and, some trees to the south. And so, yeah, I think it's a good opportunity. It's a good opportunity for everybody.
Well, and thank you to the staff for vetting this out and visiting with the groups to determine what works best for them, but ultimately best within our overall plan. So I appreciate that.
And Jerry, if you do hear anything, the Post 2 is meeting on Thursday night, I believe. So if you hear anything, if you want to pass that information on, would be great. Maybe helpful to have that information ahead of that meeting on Monday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other reports from our directors?
I don't believe so.
Okay, we'll go to number 7, board to consider for approval and award golf cart lease rental. Dave Beats, presenter.
Did you want to do the foundation director's report, Madam President?
Oh, I missed one. Yeah, I'm skipping. We're going with only odd numbered things tonight. You're right. Foundation director's report. Thank you for correcting me. Brian.
Good one, Dave. I thought I skated by this time.
Wasn't going to let
you okay? Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so just a little update on the Fargo Park District Foundation. Our next meeting is Monday, this coming Monday, the 16th. 1:30, we are going to switch to virtual meetings after our last incident. And so some of the items we're going to be talking about is, first of all, there is another round of the grant match program coming up. That will be for applications that we receive by January 1st. We have actually already received one application. So are going to be publicizing the availability, of grant match funds. If any of you know of anybody that might be interested, now would be a good time to have them contact me and just talk a bit about what their project is. That's kind of the process we like to go through. We're also going to follow up on discussion from the last foundation board meeting. There was quite a few questions about what the timeline is for the sports complex. And I know that was discussed a bit at the facility committee meeting. So we're going to talk about it at this meeting just to make sure that the foundation board members all understand kind of where we're headed from a timing standpoint, a little bit more specific than the general discussions we've had in the past. We're going to review funding options and kind of, again, more specific conversations about what our plans are from a timing standpoint to make sure that the project timeline is known by all and we're all kind of moving or pulling in that same direction. So that's kind of what we're going to cover with the foundation board meeting. As far as Valley Senior Services goes, we switched over to Concordia College last week. So we've had one full week and then a couple days this week. They're doing an incredible job. And I just have to second what Jerry had to say when we awarded them the bid. Their food is incredible. I mean, the flavor is really good. The quality is top notch, and that's not to take anything away from NDSU. Their meals were always really well done. This is just something different. We've been eating NDSU food for 49 years. This is a different style, different cooking style, but they do a really good job. So we're excited about that. We've had an uptick in the number of volunteers we have. Quite a bit of publicity in the last couple of weeks. There was a nice story in the newspaper over the weekend. And all of that has resulted in a number of new volunteers approaching us, which is good because, as we've talked about, the number of meals we're doing is up 26%. And we're expecting in the winter for it to go up even a little bit more dramatically. Typically, winter time is when we get more demands for service. So we're thinking that that's going to continue on. We continue to do takeout meals at all of our senior centers, and we are anticipating that to continue probably until spring. With what's going on pandemic-wise in this region, whether it's Fargo, Moorhead, state of North Dakota, state of Minnesota, we don't think now is a good time to bring a bunch of older people with pre-existing conditions together in close quarters. So we're going to just kind of play it, month by month and make decisions as we need to. But for now, it looks like we're going to have to wait until things calm down a little bit, from a pandemic standpoint. That's probably going to mean waiting for a vaccine. So that's a little bit about what's going on in the foundation world. Anybody have any questions for me?
Hey, Brian, this is Jerry. Once the pandemic calms down, we should have a board meeting or do something over at Concordia so we can have an opportunity to eat at their dining services.
I'll tell them that. I think they'd probably be excited to do that. Yes, when we're not going to get a virus from anybody.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll follow up on that.
Oh, Brian, I have a question for you. I was just recently, I think there was some discussion about the potential, because of the shortage of volunteers for deliveries, that there would be a payment option potentially coming up. I just had talked to somebody yesterday that had been driving Meals on Wheels up on the north side, and she has been turned away because there were too many volunteers. Those are two questions.
So the first question is, are we in a position where we're going to need to hire volunteers? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, well, that was a discussion that we were involved with previously. Not, I think it was just a week or so ago.
Sure, you know, and that certainly could be a possibility. I mean, if we start to experience a shortage like we had just a few weeks ago, I mean, we were scrambling. You know, right now we're doing pretty well. Northside has actually been kind of full for volunteers, you know, almost for the last few months. So I'm not surprised to hear that it was a Northside person. We still have a few openings, whether it's at Olivet or the Clap Park location. So, you know, we were thinking about possibly exploring some type of system of paying, you know, whether it's delivery services that are willing to help us out over the noon hour or something like that. But for now, that's not what we need. For now, I think we've got it covered.
Good, thank you.
Yep.
That's great. Any other questions for Brian?
Thank you all.
I apologize for
Hey,
trying to
Brian.
leave you out again.
I'm not hurt. I'm not offended.
All right. Next up is the golf carts from Dave Beats.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Good evening, Commissioners. In your packets, you should have the information on our golf cart lease bid that we held in September. This was the bid for our rental fleet that we have at all our golf courses. We received 3 bidders on this, which we were elated to get. You know from me before, when we get 2 or even 1, I don't like it as well. So when we have 3, I really like it a lot. Once we went through all the information, as you can see on the screen, is the bid tabulation. It was very, very close. And we've had Yamaha as our vendor for the last, I believe, 10 years. But this year, All Seasons Motorsports came in with a little bit of a different deal for us. So we have selected them as our choice from staff. And what we're doing here is we're seeking approval to go with All Season Motorsports for a 3-year term. Earlier this afternoon, I sent you out the contract that we would like to execute if we should gain approval here this evening. And basically that contract spells out all of the things that we asked the vendors to provide for us in the bid. So that's what we're looking for, is we're advocating to award this bid to All Seasons Motorsports. You can see that they would retain 33% of gross rental fees from the receipts, less any taxes from any of the cart rentals we have. So that's kind of it. That's where we're at, and I'd be happy to try and answer any questions you may have.
So Dave, just kind of, so correct me if I'm wrong, but so this is a little bit less than we were paying before, correct?
Correct.
And we're getting, or we feel more comfortable with the servicing of the vehicles and stuff than maybe we were necessarily always comfortable with in the past. Is that?
That's correct. If you look, okay. Yamaha did come with a little bit cheaper of a percentage rate on their 5-year contract. You know, and nothing against Yamaha. Like I say, we've had them for the last 10 years. And it's been a good relationship, but it hasn't been a relationship without challenges. We at times have waited a very long time to get parts in when the carts break. We've also waited to get replacement carts. We've also waited, you know, for certain components. We had a windshield issue about 2 years ago. That was kind of a lengthy fiasco for our staff members. So in looking at this, when we started to dissect everything and All Seasons came in at 33% for a 3-year contract, we thought that was the best way to go. And All Seasons is not unfamiliar to us. They are a local company right here in town, where Yamaha is based out of Minneapolis. We actually had been going to All Season Motorsports to get a lot of the parts to fix our Yamaha carts. just because we would get a little bit better service there at times than we would going right back through Yamaha. So that kind of gives you a little bit of background information as to how we arrived at our decision.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dave?
Yes.
Did somebody share with All Seasons, you know, some of our concerns we've had in the past, just so they're kind of prepared and seem to think they can manage it?
We did do that, Commissioner Dawson, and as I mentioned, you know, we also have a relationship with All Season Motorsports. We've been doing business with them for a long time for our utility vehicles that the park district owns. So for a lot of our vehicles that are in our parks and on our golf courses and sports fields, we've had very good experience with the service work from them, and their customer service is you know, a step above what I would say we've gotten from Yamaha over the last couple of years. So that's what helped us drive that decision making.
And they are
Well, it sounds
local,
like-
and they've been around a long time, so I think they'll be a good choice overall.
Yeah,
Correct.
it sounds like a win, and I think it's just an added bonus that it's a local company.
I'll make the motion to approve and award the bid to, from All Season Motorsports for the golf rental lease.
I'd like to second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the golf cart lease rental. Do we have more discussion? Jeff, pull the board.
Commissioner Deutsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan,
Aye.
Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Griggs,
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Dave. Number 8, board to consider for approval and award beverage contract. Carolyn Boutain.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. Commissioners, in your packet is the information from the bid that was open for our beverage contract. We also have in our chat room here Sam Larson-Frobig, who is our concession manager, and Michelle Knudsen, who is representing PepsiCo. In our bid that we advertised, we asked for the best pricing from any possible bidder. And in your packet, we have the comparison from the 2 bidders that we received. One was from PepsiCo, the other one is from Coca-Cola. And the staff has reviewed the bid pricings. Those things highlighted in yellow shows you the better pricing for different pops, waters, sports, enhanced drinks. And then also our estimate based on the cases that we have purchased in 2019 so that we could see if there is a savings or a better price in the comparative data. And you can see that PepsiCo came in with the better pricing there. Coke did offer an alternative bid, which would have allowed for some additional opportunities. But again, in comparison with the Pepsi base bid, we felt that it was not a better offer. Some things to highlight is that Pepsi's bid did come in with 38% of commission on the gross sales less taxes from vending machines. This is lower than what our current contract is, which does expire the end of this year. And yet what they offered in exchange was additional cash value funding of $20,000 per year. And in visiting with Pepsi, the commission sales are 10% of our total contract. So again, that 38% is not a significant amount of the value of the contract. And so what we're asking for tonight is the opportunity to negotiate with Pepsi to put together a contract for 5 years, which is 2 years longer than the current contract. And again, the history on that is that previous contracts have been 5 years until the last contract, where we then asked for best pricing instead of a sponsorship and some additional dollars. And so seeing how well that worked for the 3 years, we would like to go back to the 5-year contract and ask that if you have any questions that Sam or Michelle or myself can answer them.
This is a question that I don't know if, I mean, it's not, well, I'll just answer, I'll ask the question and we'll figure out who answers. So in the past, with some of those dollars that they gave us, we did our scholarship, we called it the Pepsi Scholarship, right? And when people didn't have funds to pay for swimming passes for the summer or to sign up for recreational programs, they could apply for the scholarship, and we took the funds out of there to pay for that. If we didn't have that in our last contract, how are we covering those type of things? Are we just wiping them, just doing no charge on those that we do approve, or how do we do that?
I would ask Kevin or Tyson to answer that.
Yeah, so we do about $70,000 and we just take it off the books. We don't, basically we track it, but we don't collect any money for it.
Sure. Which is fair enough, because there's no sense in taking cash, which we're not going to get the same value on as reduced price product, to turn around and pay ourselves for something else. But I was just curious.
And one of the things I'd note too is part of one of my goals would be to find a sponsor for that dollar amount. So we're, that $70,000 that we subsidize, basically it's a lot of the pools to at least collect that. So I think there's people out there that would love to donate to people and kids that are less fortunate to do that, get them into a program for the park district.
Okay, thank you.
I think this question might be for Sam. Sam, when we order product, or when Pepsi delivers product, what happens if it expires? Is that our problem? Is that their problem? And I think of it specifically now when we, if we shut down for a while or we don't have anybody in for a while, who's on the hook for that stuff?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So Pepsi works with us on some of the expired product. They're really good about when we entered into COVID stuff and had longer expiration dates or times where we didn't have people booked, we were able to exchange product or return it within a certain time period before it expires so that they can turn around and resell it somewhere else, and then we take that as a credit. Right now with Chad and I, we've been able to manage the inventory pretty well. There's been some outdates, but it hasn't been anywhere near as what it had been in previous years as far as being able to manage that product, because we're able to be a little more hands-on with those outdates.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I just have one that's kind of off the wall, but I think a couple of years ago we talked about the trend was away from soft drinks and more towards the sport drinks. Or is that still continuing, or is that flattened out? I'm just kind of curious where the industry is at these days.
Michelle,
Hi, this is Michelle from Pepsi. Great question. We do continue to see a decrease in carbonated soft drinks in this area. However, I feel that we still have a solid, steady CSD volume with our Mountain Dew being the #1 carbonated soft drink in our tri-state area. But definitely with the younger, we do see a lot of, especially with the changes in high schools, they're not allowed, they don't sell carbonated soft drinks anymore. So we do see an increase with the non-carbonated soft drinks, and we do a Hello Goodness machine, which promotes those brands. And Sam and I do have it on the agenda to walk through and see if we can make sure that our mix is right, where we have one pop machine, which may be labeled as Pepsi, and then one Hello Goodness machine, which promotes our Gatorade, Lipton Tea, and our water brand.
Thank you.
To expand on what Michelle was saying also, the way that we've done it in our concession stands, because we do sell a lot of Gatorades, we've arranged our coolers so that the top shelf is water, and then we have water, the second shelf is Propel, the third shelf is Gatorade, and we have switched to the Gatorade Zero, the G2, and then we have one or two flavors that are the full sugar flavors. And then after that is the two bottom layers are the soda pop, so that the carbonated beverages are not in view of our younger connoisseurs that are coming to the concession stand, so that they have the healthier options and they can't see the soda options. So we're trying to increase that with we worked with Pepsi to arrange those coolers and provide those healthier options for people first also.
I love that idea, Sam. I love it.
That's great to have a resource to help you out with that type of placement and marketing. So any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the best option for kids when they're walking up and they're looking. And we subscribe in my family to the do as I say, not as I do mentality. So while the kids drink the water, Dad drinks the Mountain Dew. So we're good.
All right. Well, thanks, Sam and Michelle, for being here to answer our questions. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the, I was just trying to get to the language. Approve the Pepsi bid as described.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the beverage contract as proposed. Is there more discussion? Jeff, pull the board.
Commissioner Deutsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan,
Aye.
Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Griggs.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, everyone. All right, number 9. Board to consider for approval new request of sale of 23rd Avenue South right-of-way to City of Fargo. Dave Leaker, presenter.
All righty, commissioners, this is one we've discussed previously and we've made a motion for approval previously. As you can see on the Exhibit A up here is the actual easement, the new easement, the easement right-of-way the city is requesting at 23rd Avenue and 42nd Street. This is in that northeast corner of the Tharaldson Baseball Complex. Previously, before the city had approached us about possibly putting a right-of-way through Anderson Tharaldson, they had requested a longer easement, basically this easement just extending further west along 23rd Avenue to widen that road for a potential Shields commercial site up on the southwest corner of I-29, I-94. And over our discussions and our sale of the Anderson 4 West fields, the city has approached us for a potential right-of-way through that complex, which would eliminate the need for that larger right-of-way purchase. We did approve it. We never executed the contract. They did write the check, but we never cashed it. So while they were going through a audit this summer, it came up to the auditor's attention that there was an uncashed check for $380,000, and the city would just kind of like to clean up their books and remove that outstanding check that's out there for $380,000. So at this time, and with the right-of-way going through the two complexes yet to be determined, they only need this smaller right-of-way as shown in Exhibit A. The total cost of the purchase of this right-of-way would be $42,654. And so what they would do, since the last right-of-way was approved but never executed, upon approving this right-of-way and per the sample motion, that old right-of-way agreement would be just null and void, and we'd proceed with this smaller right-of-way. And depending on how the right-of-way through the complex shakes out, there is always the potential the city could come back to the Park District and request the larger right-of-way along 23rd Avenue and widen that road out. But we'll cross that road probably next year sometime, and we're going to look to work with the City of Fargo and Epic companies to see how this proposed right-of-way could go through the Anderson Tharaldson complex. So at this time, I think we would just approve this smaller right of way is what the city's looking for, and then work with them on the possible road through the complexes. So per the sample motion, and it's pretty intricate, but that's what we would ask at this time. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Dave, is the plan that they would use this right away regardless of whether they run one through the middle of the complex?
Yes, they do need this regardless of if we do the right of way through the complex.
So this is if we approve this, it's a permanent thing and we won't be retracting it to switch over to something else. It'll be this plus potentially the other one.
Potentially the other one through the complex, or extending this one further west. So you are correct.
Got it. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion to approve the right-of-way to the city and a second. Is there more discussion? Jeff, poll the board.
Commissioner Deutsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan,
Aye.
Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Griggs.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you, commissioners.
All right. Number 10, board to consider for approval an audit engagement letter for 2020. Tyson Lund, presenter.
Good evening, commissioners. So included in your packets an engagement letter from Eide Bailly for the 2020 audits. So there are two different audits Eide Bailly performs each year, a financial statement audit and also an audit of our federal revenues and expenses. The engagement letter basically lays out responsibilities of the auditors, what the audit will accomplish, and the expectations for management of the Park District. Also include in your packets a history of the audit fees that we have paid and estimated fees for the 2020 audits. So total amount of estimated fees for 2020 is $24,100, which is a $900 increase from 2019. Overall, Eide Bailly's done a great job in the past. They've been a great resource for me, so I would recommend continuing with Eide Bailly for this next year. I can address any questions you have, but looking for approval to move forward with Eide Bailly for the 2020 audits.
I just have to say, in my 12, 13, whatever years on the board, audits is definitely not my wheelhouse, but having Brian come in and crack a joke about how entertaining audit stuff is, and then actually explaining things to us in a way that it makes it clear and assuring us that we have awesome staff doing an awesome job is always nice. Is nice to have, but so I definitely support bringing Brian back and his team.
I second it. Is that a motion?
Yes. Sure.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion second to engage Eide Bailly for our 2020 audits. Any discussion? Jeff, poll the board.
Commissioner Deutsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan,
Aye.
Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Griggs.
Aye. I'd also like to say thank you to Tyson for being such a professional these last couple of years. Not just working with Eide Bailly, but really being a great asset to the park board, and we're going to miss you.
Very much so.
Yep. Thank you, Tyson.
Yep, thank you. I appreciate it.
We wish you all the best, Tyson.
Thank you.
Okay, number 11, because Tyson's leaving, board to consider approval of update of banking resolutions. Dave Leaker, presenter.
What a very nice segue. So as part of the, and I'll just read it off the memo, as part of the finance director transition, the Park District will need to appoint a treasurer and pass bank resolutions changing signature authority for various financial institutions the Park District works with. Attached are a series of bank resolutions establishing signer authority and removing Tyson Lund from signing authority. The board will need to appoint a new treasurer for the Park District, and at this time, Carolyn Boutain has been identified as a possible, I'd say more than possible candidate. She did this in the past when we transitioned from Jim Larson to Tyson. The resolutions are drafted with her as a treasurer and handling the financial institution signing for the Park District. The wire services allowed schedule needs to be approved to reflect Carolyn Boutain's authority to make wire transfers. This is the same schedule that was previously used with Carolyn's name and inserted in place of Tyson Lund. The form allows for staff to wire to financial institutions that we regularly do business with and only to existing Park District accounts. Any wire outside of what is listed requires additional approval from the executive director. This was presented at the budget meeting on November 4th and recommended to be brought to the full board for consideration. If you should have any questions, feel free to ask. Carolyn has accepted our request to name her treasurer, so without further ado, we'll take any questions.
Pretty straightforward. We need a temporary signer.
I'll move to approve Carolyn as presented as our new signee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Jeff, pull the board.
I was just going to
Commissioner
say,
Deutsch?
Carolyn, this is your last chance.
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan,
Aye.
Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Griggs,
Aye, motion carries. I hope you've got enough ink in your pen, Carolyn. Lots of signing.
Will do.
Is there further business to come before the meeting tonight? Okay. There being none?
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. Do we need a second?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right, meeting adjourned.